Hey guys, today I thought I'd make like a very off-the-cuff, unscripted loader tutorial slash review slash overview slash beginner's guide. If you're needing any tips for playing loader, um, I think this would be a good place to start. If you're trying to get into see what the strongest character in the game's all about, yada yada, I'm sure some other characters, whatever. But the first tip I'm going to give you about loader actually starts before you even play the game. So we're going to hit escape here, basically in any screen except the title screen settings. And we're going to go to keyboard and mouse. We're going to actually change our controls. So what this requires is that you have a thumb button on your mouse. You know those back and forward buttons, a third button. You could even use the scroll wheel if you're really down bad. But I highly recommend putting 3, if not all of your skills on the mouse. And this is important for a couple of reasons that I'll get into later. But the number one skill we want to rebind is the utility skill to a mouse button. M5 is my forward button. It's the easy one for me to reach. Maybe the back one is easy for you to reach, whichever one is easier for you. And you're going to notice that's not going to unbind your skill. But what I also recommend is setting sprint to shift, or whichever key is comfortable for you. If you like control, man, have at it. Otherwise, that's the only settings you have to change. And I understand rebinding your keys for a specific character sounds a little weird, but honestly, if I learned to play every other character the same way, it doesn't make a huge difference. Some people even put their ultimate ability, their special ability, on the mouse 4 button, so all of their abilities are on the mouse, but I don't really care to. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing, please excuse my modded interface, but I'm just going to use this to kind of show you what items are really good on loader. Obviously, if you have any knowledge of the items in this game, you know things like focus crystals, crowbars, crit glass, movement speed, stuff like that. That's all good on loader. It's all good. But there are some specific items for loader that I'd always recommend prioritizing over some others. Specifically, the backup magazine. The backup magazine is your best movement speed item that you can get for loader. Honestly, I would take a backup magazine over 2 energy drinks and 2 goat hoofs like any day, because that backup magazine is going to give you additional grapples, which can take you a lot further, a lot faster than a wax quail and red whip or whatever, what have you. So that's an underrated, but very good item for loader is the backup magazine. And that pretty much does it for the white items that are of note. Green items. These 2 items, these little rings. The bands. Obviously, loader's band damage is crazy. That is the number one source of damage for loader is the bands. And the bands rely heavily on your punch, which I'll get into skills after items. But the bands, always prioritize the bands. If you can go to the desert level on stage 2, you can get the bands by yourself. You can push both buttons by yourself as loader as long as you use the pylon. I have a whole video on my channel about that. Go ahead, look up Death Do Us Part Solo. I'll link it in a little thingy. An item to avoid, honestly, is the Shuriken. What that does is it shoots out a ninja star when you do your primary attack, and that does enough damage to proc your bands, which is not ideal. And you want to save your band proc for your punch. Later in the game, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what procs your band. Everything procs your band. But early game, and you really want to prioritize that band damage, just avoid them, scrap them, give them to somebody else, doesn't matter. And on top of that, the same thing goes with random chance of proccing your bands. Things like Will of the Wisp and ATG can proc your bands if you get 2 stacks of them. 1 stack is fine, those won't proc your bands, but 2 stacks, proc your bands. Red items for loader, Alien Head is good. Good on everybody, but Alien Head is good on loader, cooldown reduction in general. Laser scope, better band damage, obviously. Brainstalk's not as good on loader unless you have hella attack speed. If you have Brainstalks, you can slam a lot, or you can throw out up to 3 pylons at once. Interstellar Deathslam is particularly good for melee characters. So is Unstable Tesla Coil, but Hard Light Afterburner is chief among all of them. More punches means more moving. More moving requires more punches. So both having a bunch of backup mags, and by the time you get a Hard Light Afterburner, oh, you're going to be busting. Lunar items doesn't really matter for loader. I actually have these ones disabled, but I wouldn't recommend any particularly. Some people love to take purity, but loader just, I feel like loader procs as much as any other character, so I'm not really concerned with like my cooldown reduction. Eulogy 0 is my personal favorite. I love it. One item that's particularly good is I accidentally have it disabled. I'm sorry about this, but it's the Stone Flux Pauldron. It doubles your health, but halves your movement speed, which is not a huge deal for loader, especially with you get backup mags and hard light afterburners. That's going to be the main way you travel anyway. So if you want to do that, that's an option. Transcendence is very good for loader because loader has the ability to cross the map in 1 second. So if your shield gets low, you can literally get out of bounds and your shield, just wait for your shield to recharge. Doesn't matter. Void items. Oh, let's go over the yellow items and void items. Yellow items, Shatter Spleen. A lot of people think that that's an on-hit item, but it's basically a Will-o'-the-Wisp as well, so it's pretty good on loader. Molten Perforator and Charge Perforator is really good if you proc it with your Band Punch or something like that. You can get insane damage out of that. Otherwise, it's not very good. Genesis Loop is good because loader can really manipulate the health value using Scrap Barrier. Planula is good because loader is good at taking lots of chip damage. Little Disciple's okay if you're within range. Same thing with Myrdern. If you're within range, it's good. Aurelionite, terrible, bad, always scrap. Safer Spaces. Now, some of the lunar items, I'm not going to get into the void items right now, but I will just say that Weeping Fungus is good on loader just because it's basically good on everybody else. One item to avoid is Singularity Band. You don't want to lose your bands. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. So now it's time to get into the loadout. This is the part where the controversy comes in. I don't know. It really depends on how you like to play, so it doesn't matter what you use, but one no-brainer almost, it would be the secondary Spiked Fist. It pulls you to heavy objects, but light targets like small enemies are pulled to you. This is useful for a number of reasons, but doing the damage and stunning is basically the biggest reason to use this one. It's just better, and the case, like, you can swing off a Wisp with the other one, but it doesn't matter. Charge Gauntlet versus Thunder Gauntlet. Charge Gauntlet takes longer to charge up, but it does more damage and throws you further. Thunder Gauntlet charges almost instantly, doesn't go as far, and when you hit something, you stop instead of going through it. It also does like an AoE cone. If bands are your #1 priority, if you want to do big damage and you want bands, then there's no other way to go than the Charge Gauntlet. But if you're more interested in just kind of ignoring that and just flying around, then maybe Thunder Gauntlet would be good for you. I'm struggling to think of a case where Thunder Gauntlet is better, but I just always use Charge. And then Air Special, it really doesn't matter. It really does not matter. But the Slam has some weird tech you can do with it, with the momentum glitching and stuff, so if you want to get into that, that's fine. But I can never go out the pylon. You can swing off this thing. It's got a 0.5 proc coefficient, which is crazy. And I just love it. And then the skins, whatever. But yeah, the primary, let's go over that real quick. Scrap Barrier is immensely useful. So Scrap Barrier procs per hit. So if you hit 2 enemies with 1 punch, you're getting double that barrier proc. And that barrier that you get per hit is based on your max HP. So the higher HP you have, that Stone Flux is going to increase the amount of barrier you get per hit. Alright, without further ado, let's go in and get a hang of the basic controls for loader. So the #1 thing is the rebinding of the controls. So now your charge punch is on your mouse button. So basically, anytime you're on the ground, you want to be charging that punch. And the reason we put it on this mouse button is so that you can freely sprint. Oh no, I don't want to turn on sticky keys. No, don't do that. But so yeah, I can go and sprint freely back and forth, because there are times when you want to be sprinting and when you don't. But that's going to make your control of loader a lot easier. See how easy it was for me to just sprint, and I have full control, full range of motion, and it's great. So now let's get into the mechanics of how the swinging works. So when you shoot your M2 as loader, it has a limited distance. And when you hit something, it grabs it. If you're standing on the ground, you'll basically go nowhere. But if you jump into the air or it pulls you into the air, you'll fling up high. You see, I'm not sprinting right now, but if I do sprint and hold forward, I actually gain a wider swing. So depending on whether or not like you need a wider swing or not of a wide swing, you can sprint. Just holding M2 here and just swinging around. This is basically preferable to being on the ground at all times. This is why it's okay to take the movement speed penalty of charging your punch, because your M2 is going to take you wherever you need to go. I just did a maneuver. I don't know what I call it, but it's kind of like you whip yourself when you grab. You grab it and then you throw your character in a different direction. It kind of increases your momentum. You can really get a feel for like how Loader's momentum works after a while. But just come to a stage and practice swinging like this. See, I didn't turn enemies off. I'm playing on the hardest difficulty, although I did spawn on a random map. But see, it's like really easy to practice. You don't need to like turn off the enemies or download any mods or anything. Very fun. So yeah, basically the main idea behind Loader is that you just charge your punch whenever you can, take the movement speed penalty, and just use your M2 primarily to swing. There are times when you don't want to let go of your M2. Say I wanted to punch this enemy and return to that location. I can punch him and then continue holding M2. See, now I'm back at the location. Say I punched him and he dropped something because it's sacrifice. Boom, I'm back. Or you're fighting the boss in the teleporter zone and you want to do a big punch on the boss, but you don't want to leave the teleporter zone. Just continue holding M2. And I'll show you the difference between big enemies and small enemies with Loader. I can't really grab a jellyfish. But you can grab things like Lemurians and beetles and bring them to you. I say this has many uses because it has synergy with items, like you can grab a blazing enemy and bring it to you and proc your roll of pennies. Now time for the ultimate ability. This pylon is the GOAT. We love the pylon. It does decent damage. It's really good for cleaning up enemies that you didn't kill all the way, or maybe who only got grazed by your punch, or just protecting you from wisps. The good thing about it is that it has a 0.5 proc coefficient, so that means it can proc your ATGs for free, it can proc ukuleles, it can do anything like an on-hit item would benefit from, and it's just free. And also you have this really sweet mechanic where you can shoot this out and grapple onto it, and then boom, there was nothing up there for me to swing off of, but I made my own, so I just swung off of it. There's also a mechanic where when you shoot it out, it actually has momentum, and if you grab it while it's moving through the air, you can preserve some of that momentum like that. It's a little tricky to get the hang of at first, but actually, you see how big that swing was? That's crazy. No other character can do that. Don't tell me another character can do that. Now it's time to display the uses of the M1. Never mind, this boss is not going to show that off very well. Or I'm gonna show you the bounce back. So I'm gonna continue holding M2 after I let go of my punch, so I can return to the boss and just start swinging away while I wait for my punch to recharge. Loader's pylon has some really cool mechanics when it comes to displacement of enemies. You can do some crazy things if you manage to spawn the pylon like right next to an enemy. It can kind of displace it. I didn't get a good effect there, but you're already seeing how crazy this band damage is, and we can tank it. We're Loader. It's fine. No items, no problem. I don't know if one-shot protection saved me, but... Oh, I died. There we go, that's how you play Loader. But no, I do want to show you the scrap barrier off a little bit. And this is not like meant to demonstrate skill, it's to give you a better idea of how like Loader tech works and like hidden, not necessarily hidden mechanics, but things you just wouldn't think about unless you played Loader for 1,000 hours. Once again, I get a boss that I can't just M1 to death. Bosses that you can M1 to death are things like Beetle Queens and Stone Titans are really easy to M1 to death. But see, I am in melee range of these vultures and it's not working out for me. Alright. If I go to Golem Plains and I don't get a Stone Titan as a boss... Wandering Vagrant, are you kidding me? And now they're like leveled up because it's Monsoon. But see, holding M1, a Beetle Queen would have been better to dismember this. Is actually a viable strategy, and if another enemy comes along and stands in this and I smack them both at the same time, I'm doubling my barrier gain. And honestly, a lot of the game can be played like this, especially after you get things like repulsion armor plates or razor wire. any kind of like close AoE damage, smack those wisps away. Watch, perfect time to demonstrate the uses of the pylon. Bounces off its ass, and it stays right there. Boom. It's taking care of things for me. All I gotta do is sit back and relax and hold M1. This is the, you may not like it, but this is what peak loader gameplay looks like. Alright, let's do a big swing to finish him off, maybe. Easy clap. Watch this. Oh, getting lasered by the Stone Titan. Oh no, laser didn't punch. Oh, I'll just tank it. Oh no, now I'm surrounded by wisps. Who cares? I'm loader. I'm gonna come back from this. No damage taken. No deaths. 0 dice allowed. Get some extra enemies in my swing. Boom. Easy clap. Alright guys, and I would say just keep practicing swinging around playing as loader. Loader has a lot of potential for a lot of fun movement mechanics. I will say that loader's probably like my #1 favorite thing to do in this game is just play loader. So I would say definitely give it a shot if you're a fan of like movement tech characters, or if you've ever been disappointed by like a Spider-Man game before, or if you've like, I don't know. I also have this really cool hotkey that gives me 5 purities, 200 hopper feathers, and whatever. So I can just fly around as loader. This is what I do. Instead of using no clip, I just give myself these items so I can fly around infinitely. And it doesn't matter. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please discuss the controversial loader opinions contained in this video in the comments to no end. And if you want to play Risk of Rain sometime, just, you know, comment on this video. I'll probably read it instantly and send you an LFG code. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching the video if you made it this far, and if you did, go ahead and subscribe.